In 1915, an expedition ship became trapped deep inside the Antarctic ice. There was no radio capable of summoning rescue, no nearby settlement, and almost no chance that another vessel would find them. Then the ice began crushing their ship. How did all 28 men aboard the Endurance make it home alive? This is the story of one of the most extraordinary survival missions in history. In 1914, explorer Ernest Shackleton set out to accomplish something no one had ever done before: cross the entire Antarctic continent on foot. His ship, the Endurance, carried 28 men into the Weddell Sea, where they planned to land on the Antarctic coast and begin the journey. But on January 18, 1915, the ship became trapped in dense pack ice. The men tried cutting and breaking a path around the vessel, but it was useless. The Endurance could no longer move under her own power. She was now drifting wherever the ice carried her. For months, the crew lived aboard the frozen ship while the Antarctic winter closed around them. Shackleton worked constantly to maintain morale. The men performed their regular duties, exercised the expedition's dogs, played games, staged theatrical performances, and even held races across the ice. But beneath them, the pressure was building. As the ice shifted, enormous floes pressed against the wooden hull. The ship groaned, buckled, and began taking on water. On October 27th, Shackleton finally gave the order to abandon her. The crew unloaded food, tents, 3 lifeboats, and whatever equipment they could carry. Then they established a camp on the moving ice and watched as the Endurance was slowly torn apart. On November 21, 1915, the ship slipped beneath the Weddell Sea. The expedition had never even reached Antarctica's shore. Now 28 men were stranded on drifting sea ice, hundreds of miles from help. They remained on the ice for nearly 5 more months, hoping the currents would carry them toward open water. When their floe finally began breaking apart in April 1916, the men crowded into the 3 small lifeboats. After a brutal voyage through freezing seas, they reached Elephant Island, the first solid ground they had touched in nearly 500 days. But the island was uninhabited and far outside normal shipping routes. No one knew they were there. Shackleton realized that waiting for rescue could mean death. He selected 5 men and launched their most seaworthy lifeboat, the James Caird, towards South Georgia, approximately 800 miles away, across some of the most dangerous ocean on Earth. The boat had been strengthened by carpenter Harry McNish, who raised its sides and added a makeshift deck to give the men some protection from the sea. For 17 days, the 6 men battled enormous waves, freezing temperatures, and violent winds, while navigator Frank Worsley attempted to guide them using only brief glimpses of the sun. Against nearly impossible odds, they reached South Georgia, but they had landed on the wrong side of the island. Shackleton, Worsley, and Tom Crean then crossed mountains and glaciers that had never been mapped, walking for 36 hours without sleep until they reached a whaling station. The men who saw them arrive barely recognized them as human. But Shackleton had no intention of resting. 3 days after reaching the whaling station, he was already sailing back toward Elephant Island. 22 men were still waiting there, sheltering beneath overturned lifeboats and trusting that he would return. The first rescue ship was stopped by pack ice before it could reach them. A second attempt failed, and then a third. Each time, Shackleton was forced to turn back, knowing that the men on Elephant Island had no way of knowing whether he had even survived. Finally, the Chilean government provided a small steam tug called the Yelcho. On August 30th, 1916, Shackleton made his 4th attempt to reach the island. The men left behind finally saw a ship approaching. Shackleton counted them from the deck of the Yelcho. Every man was there. The planned crossing of Antarctica had failed. The Endurance had been crushed and lost beneath the ice. But after more than a year, stranded in one of the most hostile places on Earth, all 28 men who had sailed aboard the Endurance survived. The ship was gone, but its name had become the perfect description of the men who sailed aboard her.